Sarah Chen walked through the long hallway toward the judgment chamber. Her small human frame looked tiny next to the massive alien beings that filled the corridor. Some floated in the air like glowing clouds. Others towered above her on 6 legs, their crystal bodies catching the light. A few looked almost human, but with blue skin and 4 arms. The Galactic Council building was the biggest structure Sarah had ever seen. It stretched up into the sky like a mountain made of glass and metal. Inside, representatives from 847 different alien species had come to decide what would happen to Earth and all humans. Sarah's hands shook slightly as she reached the huge doors to the judgment chamber. She had been Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Council for 5 years. In all that time, she had tried to show the aliens that humans could be peaceful. She had tried to prove they belonged in the galaxy alongside all the other species. Today, she knew she had failed. The doors opened with a soft hiss. The chamber was enormous. Thousands of alien beings sat in rows that went up and up like a stadium. At the center was a small platform where Sarah would have to stand alone. Above her, floating in a containment suit filled with crackling energy, was High Arbiter Velthara. She was the leader of the council and would speak the final judgment. Sarah walked to the platform. Her footsteps echoed in the silent chamber. Every alien eye, sensor, and detection organ focused on her. She felt like a mouse surrounded by cats. High Arbiter Velthara's voice filled the chamber. It sounded like music mixed with the rumble of thunder. Ambassador Chen of the species called humans, you stand before this council to hear judgment on your people. Sarah nodded. She had known this day would come ever since the council discovered Earth's military programs. The charges against humanity are serious, Velthara continued. Your species has violated the sacred doctrine of peaceful expansion. You have built weapons of mass destruction. You have militarized your space program. You have established armed colonies without council permission. Most dangerous of all, you have shown a level of violence that threatens the peace of the entire galaxy. Around the chamber, alien voices whispered in hundreds of languages. Sarah heard the translation in her earpiece. They were all saying the same thing. Humans were too dangerous, too violent, too primitive. A holographic display appeared above the chamber. It showed images from Earth's history, wars, explosions, weapons, soldiers. Then it showed humanity's space program. Military, ships, armed satellites, weapons platforms around the moon. The evidence was clear and damning. Sarah wanted to speak up. She wanted to explain that humans had built these things to protect themselves, that Earth was a dangerous world where only the strong survived, that everything they had done was to ensure their species could continue to exist, but she knew it would not matter. The council had made up their minds before the trial even began. Velthara raised one glowing appendage. The chamber fell silent. The evidence is overwhelming. Humanity has proven itself to be a violent, aggressive species that cannot coexist peacefully with civilized beings. Other species brought before this council have shown they can change. They have abandoned their violent ways and joined our peaceful community. Sarah bit her lip. She knew what was coming next. Humanity has shown no such growth. In the 5 years since first contact, violent incidents on Earth have actually increased. Your military spending has grown. Your weapons have become more deadly. You have ignored our guidance and continued down a path of destruction. The hologram showed more images. Humans fighting in wars across Earth, new weapons being tested, ships being built with bigger guns and thicker armor. To the peaceful aliens, it must have looked like humanity was preparing for war against the entire galaxy. Therefore, Velthara announced, her voice growing stronger, by unanimous vote of the Galactic Council, the species known as Homo sapiens is hereby exiled from civilized space. Sarah felt like she had been punched in the stomach. Even though she had expected this, hearing it spoken aloud was devastating. A quarantine barrier will be erected around your star system, Velthara continued. All contact with humanity is forbidden. This barrier will remain in place until such time as your species evolves beyond its primitive, warlike nature. If such evolution occurs, you may petition this council for readmission to civilized space." The chamber erupted in alien voices. Most sounded pleased with the decision. A few sounded uncertain. Sarah noticed that one section of the chamber had remained silent during the voting. These were the Mantari, an insect-like species that had become her closest allies during her time as ambassador. Ambassador Crix of the Mantari Collective caught her eye. His compound eyes seemed to shimmer with something that looked like sadness. Sarah had learned to read Mantari expressions over the years. Crix was trying to tell her something important. His translated voice came through her earpiece, so quiet only she could hear. "They have no idea what they have just done." To council. Guards approached Sarah. They were tall, gray beings with too many joints in their arms and legs. Their faces showed no emotion as they gestured for her to follow them. Sarah took one last look around the chamber. These aliens thought they were saving the galaxy from humanity. They believed they were protecting peace and civilization from Earth's violence and aggression. They were so very wrong. As Sarah was escorted out of the chamber, she thought about what would happen next. The barrier would go up around Earth's solar system. Humanity would be cut off from the rest of the galaxy. No trade, no communication, no contact of any kind. The Council thought this would force humans to become peaceful. They thought isolation would make humanity abandon their violent ways and become more like the other civilized species. Sarah almost smiled at their ignorance. They did not understand human nature at all. When humans were threatened, they did not become peaceful. They became more dangerous. When they were isolated, they did not become weak. They became united. The aliens had just given humanity the greatest gift possible, a common enemy and time to prepare. Sarah was taken to a small ship that would carry her back to Earth. As the ship left the council station, she looked out the window at the massive structure shrinking behind them. Somewhere in there, 847 alien species were celebrating what they thought was a victory. In a few months, the barrier would be complete. Earth would be sealed off from the galaxy like a tomb. The Council would forget about humanity and go back to their peaceful, comfortable lives. They would not think about humans again until it was far too late. Sarah settled back in her seat as the ship entered hyperspace. She had a lot to do when she got home. Humanity had been given a reprieve, even if they did not realize it yet. The galaxy thought it had caged a dangerous animal. What they had actually done was give the animal time to sharpen its claws. The journey back to Earth took 3 days. When Sarah finally saw her home planet growing larger in the view screen, she felt a mixture of sadness and determination. This might be the last time any human would see Earth from a ship that had traveled through Council space, but it would not be the last time humans traveled among the stars. The Council had made sure of that. They had picked the wrong enemy. Captain Marcus Torres stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance and watched the energy barrier that surrounded Earth's solar system. The wall of crackling blue light had been there for 50 years now. It stretched in all directions, completely, sealing off humanity from the rest of the galaxy. The Galactic Council had built it to keep humans trapped inside their own star system. They thought it would force humanity to become peaceful and civilized. Instead, it had turned them into something far more dangerous. "Status report," Marcus ordered. Lieutenant Kim checked her instruments. "Barrier is holding steady, Captain. No changes in the energy patterns. The Council monitoring stations outside are still there, but they're not paying much attention to us anymore." Marcus nodded. That was exactly what humanity wanted. For 50 years, the aliens had watched Earth's solar system from the other side of the barrier. At first, they had kept a close eye on everything humans did. They expected to see wars and destruction as humanity tore itself apart. Instead, They had seen something that confused them. Humanity had united. The wars on Earth had stopped within 5 years of the barrier going up. Not because humans had suddenly become peaceful, but because they had found a bigger enemy to fight. Every nation, every people, every human being now had the same goal: break free from their alien prison and make the galaxy pay for what it had done. "Take us to Mars base," Marcus commanded. The Defiants turned away from the barrier and headed toward the red planet. As they flew, Marcus looked out at the transformed solar system around him. 50 years of focused human effort had changed everything. Mars was no longer the empty red world it had once been. Massive domed cities covered its surface. Huge factories pumped out smoke and steam as they built ships, weapons, and equipment for humanity's growing military. The planet had become Earth's primary military base and weapon factory. Jupiter's moons were covered with shipyards. Hundreds of massive construction platforms floated around the giant planet, each one building new human warships. The ships were sleek and deadly, designed by engineers who had studied every piece of alien technology they could get their hands on. The asteroid belt had been completely transformed. What had once been random chunks of rock floating in space was now a vast network of mining stations, weapons platforms, and military bases. Humanity had strip-mined every asteroid for materials to build their war machine. Most impressive of all was the fleet itself. Earth now had over 10,000 military ships. They were not the crude, primitive vessels the aliens remembered from 50 years ago. These were works of art, deadly beautiful machines that incorporated the best human engineering. With reverse-engineered alien technology, the Defiants docked at Mars Central Command. Marcus walked through corridors filled with soldiers, scientists, and engineers from every nation on Earth. Chinese officers worked alongside American technicians. Russian pilots trained with Indian navigators. African engineers designed weapons with European scientists. The barrier had done something the Council never expected. It had made humanity stronger. Marcus entered the briefing room where Admiral Sarah Chen was waiting. She was the daughter of the ambassador who had been exiled 50 years ago. Like her mother, she had dedicated her life to preparing humanity for what was coming. "Report, Captain," Admiral Chen said. "Patrol completed, Admiral. The barrier remains stable. No sign that the Council suspects our activities. Fleet Groups 7 and 9 have returned from their reconnaissance missions." Admiral Chen smiled. The Council thought their barrier was perfect. They believed it was impossible for anything to get through. They were wrong. Human scientists had spent decades studying the barrier. They had learned how it worked, how it was powered, and most importantly, how to get around it. Tiny probes, smaller than grains of sand, had been slipping through quantum gaps in the barrier for years. These microscopic spies had spread throughout Council space, gathering information about every alien species, every planet, every military base. "What did our scouts discover?" Admiral Chen asked. Captain Torres activated a holographic display. It showed a three-dimensional map of nearby Council space. Red dots marked the positions of alien fleets, bases, and important targets. "The Council has grown even more complacent, Admiral. Their military forces are spread thin across the galaxy. Most species have reduced their armed forces because they believe the galaxy is at peace. The Zephyrians have cut their fleet by 60%. The Ethereals have converted most of their military ships to civilian use." Admiral Chen nodded. This was exactly what humanity had hoped for, while humans had spent 50 years preparing for war. The aliens had spent 50 years forgetting how to fight. "What about their technology?" she asked. Dr. Elena Vasquez, Earth's chief scientist, stepped forward. She was an old woman now, but her mind was as sharp as ever. "We have reverse-engineered most of their major systems, Admiral. Our weapons are now superior to anything in the Council fleet. Our ships are faster, better armored, and more maneuverable. Most importantly, we have developed new technologies they have never seen. She activated another display showing human weapon systems, planet crackers that can destroy entire worlds, space folders that can move our ships instantly across vast distances, quantum disruptors that can tear holes in reality itself. Marcus felt a chill of excitement. For 50 years, humanity had been building, learning, and preparing. They had taken the best of alien technology and improved it. They had developed new weapons and tactics that no alien species had ever imagined. "When do we begin, Admiral?" Marcus asked. Admiral Chen looked out through the window at the red Martian landscape. Construction mechs were building new factories and weapon platforms even as they watched. In the distance, a massive new dreadnought was being launched from the orbital shipyards. "Soon, Captain, very soon. Our intelligence network is almost complete. Our fleets are ready. Our weapons are tested and proven. The galaxy thinks we are trapped behind this barrier, slowly becoming civilized and peaceful." She turned back to face them, and Marcus saw something in her eyes that would have terrified the aliens. It was the look of a predator that had been caged too long. They are about to learn what happens when you try to cage humanity. They wanted us gone because we were too violent for civilized space. They were right. We are violent. We are dangerous. And we are everything they feared we would become. Dr. Vasquez smiled grimly. "The barrier technology has been completely mastered, Admiral. We can bring down our own quarantine whenever we choose. Better yet, we can weaponize it. Imagine being able to trap entire enemy fleets in pocket dimensions while we deal with them at our leisure." Admiral Chen nodded. "Begin final preparations. Contact all fleet commanders. Activate all sleeper agents in Council space. It is time to show the galaxy what 50 years of human determination can accomplish." As the meeting ended, Marcus walked to the observation deck. He looked out at the barrier that surrounded their solar system. For 50 years, it had been their prison. Soon it would become their launching point. The aliens thought they had solved the human problem by locking them away. They thought isolation would make humans weak and peaceful. Instead, they had given humanity the greatest gift possible: time to prepare and a reason to unite. Marcus smiled as he watched human ships moving through the system. Thousands of them, all ready for war. All waiting for the order to remind the galaxy why their ancestors had feared the dark. The Council had made a terrible mistake 50 years ago. They had not destroyed humanity when they had the chance. Instead, they had given them time to become something far worse than the primitive, violent species they remembered. They had created their own nightmare, and that nightmare was almost ready to wake up. Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the war room deep beneath Mars Central Command. Around her, holographic displays showed a perfect three-dimensional map of the entire galaxy. Red lights pulsed throughout the display like a spreading infection. Each light represented a human spy probe that had infiltrated Council space. 60 years of exile had given humanity something no other species possessed: complete knowledge of their enemies. "Show me the network status," Admiral Chen ordered. Commander Rajesh Singh stepped forward. He was the head of humanity's intelligence division, the man responsible for the greatest spy operation in galactic history. His fingers danced across the control panel, and the hologram changed to show streams of data flowing from thousands of locations. "The network is fully operational, Admiral," Singh reported. "We have backdoor access to 97% of all Council communication systems. This includes military channels, government networks, and even personal communication devices. Every message, every order, every casual conversation between Council species is being monitored and recorded." Admiral Chen smiled coldly. The irony was beautiful. The Council had built their entire civilization on cooperation and trust. Their galaxy-spanning communication network connected every world, every ship, every government. It was supposed to be the symbol of their peaceful unity. Instead, it had become humanity's greatest weapon. What about their defense systems? Chen asked. Compromised, Singh replied immediately. Our nanoprobes have infiltrated the control systems of every major defense platform, orbital weapon, and military base in Council space. When we give the word, we can turn their own defenses against them. The nanoprobes had been humanity's masterpiece. Smaller than specks of dust, they could slip through any barrier and infiltrate any system. For decades, they had been spreading throughout the galaxy like a virus. The Council had never noticed them because they had never looked for them. Why would they? In their peaceful galaxy, who would dare to spy on the Council? Dr. Elena Vasquez joined them at the holographic display. She was old now, her hair gray and her face lined with wrinkles. But her mind was still sharp, and she had been the driving force behind many of humanity's greatest technological breakthroughs. The barrier analysis is complete, she announced. We have successfully reverse-engineered every aspect of the quarantine. Technology. Not only can we bring down our own barrier, we can create new ones. Imagine, Admiral, the ability to trap entire fleets in pocket dimensions while we destroy them one by one. Chen nodded. This was the weapon that would win the war, before it truly began. The Council had used barrier technology to imprison humanity. Now humanity would use it to cage their enemies. What about their military capabilities? Chen asked. Commander Singh brought up new displays showing alien fleets throughout the galaxy. Pathetic, Admiral. 60 years of peace have made them soft. The Zephyrian fleet has been reduced by 70%. Most of their remaining ships are used for exploration and trade, not war. The ethereal gas hunters have converted their military vessels to mining ships. Even the Mantari Collective, traditionally the Council's primary military force, has cut their armed forces in half. Chen studied the information. It was even better than she had hoped. While humanity had spent 60 years becoming a military powerhouse, the aliens had spent the same time forgetting how to fight. Their weapons technology is equally outdated, Singh continued. They have made few advances in military systems because they had no need for them. Their shields are weak, their armor is thin, and their weapons lack the power to penetrate our defenses. Meanwhile, our planet crackers can destroy entire worlds, and our quantum disruptors can tear holes in space-time itself. Dr. Vasquez activated another display. The psychological profiles are also complete. Every major Council species has been analyzed. We know their fears, their weaknesses, and their breaking points. The Zephyrians are terrified of dimensional instability because it disrupts their crystal matrix bodies. The ethereals panic when confined in small spaces. The aquatic collective becomes helpless when removed from liquid environments. Admiral Chen felt a surge of pride. Humanity had not wasted a single day of their exile. Every moment had been spent learning, preparing, and planning for this day. What is our current fleet strength? She asked. Commander Singh smiled grimly. 15,000 combat vessels, Admiral, each one superior to anything in the Council fleet. Our dreadnoughts are the size of small moons and carry enough firepower to level continents. Our stealth frigates are invisible to all known scanning methods. Our fighter craft are so fast and maneuverable that alien pilots will not be able to track them, let alone shoot them down. The hologram showed formations of human ships throughout the solar system. They were sleek, deadly works of art. Black as space itself, bristling with weapons that could crack planets and fold space. Each ship was crewed by volunteers who had trained their entire lives for this moment. Personnel? Chen asked. Every human being is ready, Admiral, Singh replied. Our entire species has been preparing for this day. We have 12 billion people united under a single command structure. Compare this to the Council, where 847 different species can barely agree on what to have for lunch. It was true. The barrier had given humanity something the Council could never achieve: perfect unity. Every human alive understood that they were part of something larger than themselves. They were part of the species that would make the galaxy. Pay for its arrogance. Intelligence on specific targets? Chen asked. The hologram changed to show detailed plans of major council facilities. Complete, Admiral. We know the location of every government building, military base, and strategic resource in council space. We have infiltrated their computer systems, compromised their leaders, and mapped their supply lines. When we attack, they will be blind, defenseless, and completely unprepared. Admiral Chen walked around the holographic display, studying the vast network of information that humanity had gathered. It was the most complete intelligence picture any military force had ever possessed. The Council had no secrets from humanity. None at all. "Show me the attack plan," she ordered. The hologram changed to show a complex tactical display. Human fleets were positioned at key points throughout the solar system, ready to burst through the barrier simultaneously. Strike forces were assigned to specific targets. Support groups were prepared to cut off escape routes and reinforcements. Phase 1 involves simultaneous attacks on 347 strategic targets, Singh explained. We will strike their major military, bases, communication hubs, and government centers all at the same time. They will not have time to coordinate a response or even understand what is happening to them. Phase 2 will target their industrial capacity and supply lines, Dr. Vasquez added. Without the ability to build new ships or supply their existing forces, any resistance they manage to organize will quickly collapse. Phase 3 is pacification and occupation, Singh concluded. We will systematically take control of every council world, establishing human authority and ensuring that no alien species ever again poses a threat to our people. Admiral Chen nodded slowly. It was a perfect plan, developed over decades of careful study and preparation. The Council would never see it coming because they could not imagine that any species would dedicate 60 years to preparing for revenge. Time. Frame? She asked. From the moment we dropped the barrier to complete galactic conquest, approximately 4 months, Singh replied. Most Council species will surrender once they realize the scope of what they are facing. Those that refuse to submit will be eliminated. 4 months. 60 years of preparation would be unleashed in a 4-month campaign that would reshape the galaxy forever. Admiral Chen looked one more time at the holographic display showing human forces throughout the solar system. Thousands of ships, millions of soldiers, billions of people all waiting for her command. Behind the barrier, the Council continued their peaceful, comfortable lives, completely unaware that their doom was preparing to be unleashed. Activate all deep cover agents, Admiral, Chen ordered. Begin final preparations for Operation Reckoning. Send word to all fleet commanders. We launch in 72 hours. As her staff hurried to carry out her orders, Admiral Chen remained standing before the holographic display. Soon, very soon, the galaxy would learn what happened when you caged humanity. The Council had made the greatest mistake in galactic history 60 years ago. They had given humanity time to prepare, reason to unite, and motivation to become something far more dangerous than they had ever been before. Now it was time to collect the bill for that mistake. Admiral Thesica of the Zephyrian Home Defense Fleet was enjoying a peaceful morning patrol when his entire world went insane. One moment he was commanding 200 crystal warships in perfect formation high above Zephyria Prime. The next moment, space around his fleet rippled like water, and suddenly they were somewhere else entirely. His ships found themselves trapped in a pocket of twisted space-time, watching helplessly as unidentified vessels appeared around their homeworld. The attacking ships were unlike anything Thesica had ever seen. They were sleek, black, and deadly beautiful. They moved through space with the grace of predators, their weapon systems charging with an ominous red glow. Most disturbing of all, they had appeared without triggering a single alarm or detection. "System! What is happening?" Thesica demanded, his crystalline voice ringing with confusion and fear. His tactical officer, a young Zephyrian named Keltar, studied the readings with growing horror. "Admiral, We have been displaced into a dimensional pocket. Our entire fleet is trapped here while unknown vessels attack our homeworld. I am reading massive energy signatures from their weapons. They are targeting our orbital defense platforms. Through the twisted space of their prison, Thisika watched as the mysterious attackers systematically destroyed every defense his people had built around their planet. The orbital weapon platforms, mighty structures that had protected Zephyria for 1,000 years, crumbled under the assault like children's toys. "Who are they?" Thisika whispered. He would get his answer soon enough. Across Council space, the same scene was playing out with terrifying efficiency. The proud ethereal gas mining fleets found themselves quarantined in dimensional bubbles while their infrastructure was methodically dismantled. The Mantari war fleets, the Council's primary military force, discovered that their bio-neural control systems had been compromised. Their own ships turned against them, firing on vessels they had served alongside for decades. In the Council chambers on Nexus Prime, panic reigned supreme. Representatives from hundreds of species filled the great hall with confused shouts and desperate questions. The emergency session had been called when reports began flooding in from across the galaxy. High Arbiter Velthara's energy form flickered with distress as she tried to make sense of the chaos. "Report!" she demanded. A Mantari intelligence officer stepped forward, his insect-like form trembling with exhaustion. He had been working without rest for 6 hours, trying to coordinate information from the disaster zones. "High Arbiter, we are under attack by an unknown force using technology that defies our understanding. Over 300 systems have been hit simultaneously. Their weapons are destroying our defenses. Their ships are superior to ours in every way, and somehow they have compromised our communication networks." "How is that possible?" Velthara asked. "Our network security is perfect. No one can infiltrate our systems without authorization." Ambassador Crix of the Mantari Collective stood up slowly. He had been silent throughout the emergency session, but now all compound eyes turned to him. There was something in his posture that suggested he knew more than he was saying. "Honored colleagues," he began, his translated voice carrying an edge of dark amusement, "I believe we are experiencing what humans call consequences." The chamber fell silent. For 60 years, no one had mentioned humanity. They had been forgotten, dismissed as a failed species that had probably destroyed itself behind their barrier. "The humans?" Velthara's voice crackled with disbelief. "That is impossible. They are quarantined. The barrier has held for 60 years. "Has it?" Crix asked quietly. "When was the last time anyone actually checked on them? When was the last time we sent a probe to see what they were doing behind that barrier?" The silence that followed was answer enough. The Council had built the barrier and then forgotten about humanity completely. They had assumed the problem was solved. Suddenly, every display screen in the chamber lit up with the same image, a clenched fist holding a broken chain against a field of stars. It was a symbol none of them recognized, but somehow they all understood its meaning. The chains of exile had been broken. Then the screens went black, and a human voice filled the chamber. It was clear, cold, and absolutely confident. "Greetings, Galactic Council. You may remember my mother, Ambassador Sarah Chen, whom you condemned to exile 60 years ago. My name is Admiral Sarah Chen, and I speak for the United Earth Federation." The voice continued as tactical displays appeared on the screens, showing the scope of humanity's opening move. Over 300 Council systems had been simultaneously attacked or blockaded. Their communication networks were compromised. Their defenses were neutralized. Their fleets were scattered or destroyed. "You declared us too violent for civilized space," Admiral Chen's voice continued. "You were right. We are violent. We are dangerous. We are everything you feared we would become, and so much more. You assumed that exile would weaken us. Instead, it gave us time to prepare, time to study you, time to learn your weaknesses." High Arbiter Velthara found her voice at last. What do you want? The answer that came back chilled every being in the chamber. Everything. The transmission continued. You built your civilization on cooperation and trust, admirable qualities that we have turned into weapons against you. For 60 years you have lived in peace while we prepared for war. Every message you sent, every ship you built, every decision you made has been watched and recorded. We know your fears, your weaknesses, and your breaking points. The tactical displays showed human ships appearing throughout Council space like a plague. They moved with coordination that no Council fleet had ever achieved. Their weapons tore through alien defenses as if they were made of paper. This is not conquest, Admiral Chen's voice explained. This is education. You are learning what happens when a species builds its entire civilization on the assumption that everyone else will play by the same rules. You are learning why evolution favors the predator over the prey. Ambassador Crix stood up again. How many of us will you kill? He asked. There was a pause before Admiral Chen answered. That depends on how quickly you learn. Species that surrender immediately and accept human authority will be allowed to continue existing. Those that resist will be eliminated. This is not personal. This is simply the natural order asserting itself. Around the chamber, representatives began shouting at once. Some demanded immediate military action. Others called for negotiations. A few were already talking about surrender. Your fleets are destroyed or captured. Admiral Chen's voice cut through the chaos. Your defenses are down. Your communication networks belong to us. You have no weapons that can harm our ships and no strategies we have not already planned for. The war is over. You just have not realized it yet. The transmission ended, leaving the council chamber in stunned silence. Outside, human ships were broadcasting the same message to every world in council space. The age of peaceful cooperation was ending. The age of humanity had begun. High Arbiter Velthera's energy form flickered weakly. How long? She whispered. Ambassador Crix consulted his datapad. At their current rate of advance, the human fleet will reach Nexus Prime in approximately 48 hours, High Arbiter. Our remaining military forces will not be able to stop them. Recommendations? Crix looked around the chamber at the hundreds of species that had once ruled the galaxy. We surrender, High Arbiter. We surrender now, while some of us might still survive to see tomorrow. It was a bitter pill to swallow, but the mathematics were clear. Humanity had spent 60 years preparing for this moment while the Council had spent the same time forgetting how to fight. The outcome had been decided before the war even began. As reports continued to pour in from across the galaxy, it became clear that humanity's victory was not just military. It was psychological. Species that had ruled star systems for millennia were surrendering without firing a shot. The legendary Mantari war fleets, pride of the Council military, had been crushed in the first hour of fighting. The Council had made a fundamental error 60 years ago. They had assumed that isolation would make humanity weak and peaceful. Instead, it had given them the greatest gift possible: unity of purpose and time to prepare. Now the galaxy would pay the price for that mistake. Within 72 hours of the first attack, over half the Council's territory was under human control. The rest was falling rapidly as alien governments collapsed in the face of humanity's overwhelming superiority. The species that had exiled humanity for being too violent were learning what real violence looked like, and most of them were discovering that they had no stomach for it at all. 3 months after the war began, Admiral Sarah Chen walked through the ruins of the Galactic Council chambers on Nexus Prime. Her boots echoed in the massive hall where 847 alien species had once gathered to debate the fate of the galaxy. Now, the great chamber was empty except for broken furniture and scattered debris. The final battle had lasted exactly 4 hours. The combined remnants of the Council fleets had made their last stand in the space above Nexus Prime. It was supposed to be their greatest moment. Thousands of alien warships united in defense of their civilization. Instead, it had been a slaughter that would be remembered for millennia. Human ships had moved through the defending forces like sharks through a school of fish. Their adaptive armor had absorbed the aliens' exotic energy weapons, while their own arsenal tore through enemy shields and hulls as if they were made of tissue paper. The battle had ended when the Council flagship, a massive Zephyrian crystal dreadnought, simply stopped fighting and broadcast a surrender signal to the entire galaxy. Now Sarah stood where High Arbiter Velthara had once floated in her containment suit, speaking judgment on humanity. The energy being was gone now, her form dispersed when the power to her suit was cut. Most of the other council leaders had fled to distant worlds or surrendered themselves to human authority. The galaxy belonged to humanity. Sarah heard footsteps behind her and turned to see Ambassador Crix of the Mantari Collective approaching. His insect-like form moved carefully through the debris, his compound eyes reflecting the dim emergency lighting that still functioned in the chamber. Crix was one of the few alien officials humanity had allowed to retain any authority. His species had opposed the original exile of humanity, and he had tried to warn the Council about the consequences of their actions. Now he served as a liaison between the new human government and the surviving alien populations. "So," Crix said, his translated voice carrying exhaustion and resignation, "what now? You have conquered the galaxy in less than a standard year? Surely this was not just about revenge?" Sarah turned from her examination of the broken throne where the High Arbiter had once sat. "Revenge was just the beginning, Ambassador. We have much bigger plans than that." She gestured to the holographic displays that now filled the chamber, showing human ships patrolling every major system in the galaxy. Human administrators were taking control of alien governments. Human colonies were being established on strategic worlds throughout known space. The Council spent 10,000 years building a civilization that was slowly dying of its own complacency, Sarah explained. You eliminated competition, conflict, and the pressure of evolution. You created a galaxy of sheep, and then you wondered why your civilization was stagnating. It was true. Under Council rule, technological advancement had slowed to a crawl. Most species had grown comfortable and lazy. They had forgotten how to struggle, how to fight, how to grow stronger. The galaxy had become a peaceful retirement, home for dying civilizations. Humanity will change that, Sarah continued. We are going to drag this galaxy kicking and screaming into a new golden age, whether it wants to come or not. The holographic displays showed the scope of human ambition. New colonies were being established on thousands of worlds. Human technology was advancing at an exponential rate as it incorporated and improved upon the best innovations from across the galaxy. Most importantly, the other species were already beginning to adapt. Those that chose to thrive under human rule were becoming more competitive, more innovative, more human in their approach to life. The peaceful stagnation of the Council era was being replaced by dynamic growth and constant improvement. Your people are adapting faster than I expected, Sarah noted, studying reports from Mantari worlds. Your young are eagerly studying human military tactics, human technology, human philosophy. They understand that the old ways are gone forever. Crix nodded slowly. The survivors always adapt, Admiral. Those of my people who refuse to change have already been replaced by those who embrace the new reality. Evolution in action, as you humans would say. Sarah smiled. This was exactly what humanity had hoped for. They did not want to rule a galaxy of broken, defeated species. They wanted to create a galaxy of strong, competitive civilizations that would push each other to ever greater heights. What about resistance movements? Sarah asked. Minimal and decreasing, Crix reported. The Ethereal Liberation Front was eliminated last month. The Free Zephyrian Alliance surrendered 2 weeks ago when you demonstrated that new planet cracker weapon on their hidden base. Most species now understand that resistance is not just futile, it is evolutionary suicide. Sarah nodded with satisfaction. Humanity had been careful to make examples of those who continued to resist. Not out of cruelty, but out of necessity. The galaxy needed to understand that the old rules were gone forever. "Show me the integration reports," Sarah ordered. The holographic display changed to show statistics from across human-controlled space. The numbers were impressive. Industrial production was up 400% as human efficiency methods were implemented on alien worlds. Scientific research had increased by 600% as different species were forced to work together and share knowledge. Most importantly, birth rates were rising as alien species began to feel optimistic about the future again. "The aquatic collective has exceeded all expectations," Crix noted. "Their underwater cities are now producing more food and materials than they ever did under Council rule. The pressure of human oversight has forced them to innovate in ways they never imagined." And the Zephyrians? Remarkable adaptation. Their crystal-based technology is being integrated with human systems to create hybrid devices that surpass anything either species could build alone. Their young are abandoning the old crystalline philosophy of perfect harmony in favor of human concepts like competition and individual achievement. Sarah felt a surge of pride. This was what the galaxy had been missing for 10 millennia. The drive to improve, to compete, to become something better than what you were yesterday. "What is the status of the new galactic government?" she asked. Crix activated another display showing the administrative structure humanity had created to govern their new empire. "The Galactic Federation is functioning smoothly. Human administrators oversee all major decisions, but local alien governments handle day-to-day operations under human guidance. Efficiency is up, corruption is down, and most populations report higher satisfaction with their living conditions than they experienced under Council rule." It was not the democracy the Council had pretended to be. It was a benevolent dictatorship with humanity at the top of the hierarchy. But it worked. Decisions were made quickly, resources were allocated efficiently, and every species knew exactly where they stood in the new order. Sarah walked to the great windows that overlooked Nexus Prime. The city below was bustling with activity as human and alien workers collaborated on massive construction projects. New buildings were rising, new technologies were being developed, new ideas were spreading throughout the population. The galaxy wanted us gone because we were too dangerous to live among civilized species, Sarah said quietly. They were right. We are dangerous, but they forgot the most important thing about dangerous creatures. "What is that?" Crix asked. Sarah smiled as she watched a group of young aliens eagerly studying human military tactics at a Federation academy. They were learning to be stronger, smarter, more adaptable than their parents had ever been. Sometimes you need dangerous creatures to survive. The galaxy had grown soft and weak under Council rule. You had forgotten how to struggle, how to grow, how to become something better than what you were. We have reminded you. She turned from the window to face Crix. Your exile did not create monsters, Ambassador. It created the teachers your galaxy desperately needed. We are going to force this civilization to reach its full potential, whether it wants to or not. Outside, the new flag of the Galactic Federation flew above the former Council building. It showed humanity's eagle with wings spread wide, clutching the broken chains of the old order in its talons. The age of peaceful stagnation was over. The age of growth and competition had begun. The Council made a mistake 60 years ago, Sarah said as she prepared to leave the ruined chamber. They thought they were protecting the galaxy from humanity's violence. Instead, they were protecting humanity from the galaxy's weakness. As she walked away, her footsteps echoing in the empty hall, Sarah's final words hung in the air like a promise. Now, both problems have been solved. Behind her, Ambassador Crix remained standing in the ruins of the old order, watching as construction crews began to renovate the chamber for its new purpose as humanity's galactic headquarters. The species that had once ruled this hall were gone, replaced by something stronger, more dynamic, and infinitely more dangerous. The galaxy would never be the same. And perhaps, Crix thought as he watched human and alien workers collaborating on the renovation, that was exactly what it had needed all along. Evolution was a harsh teacher, but it was the only teacher that truly mattered. The Galactic Council had tried to stop evolution, to create a perfect, peaceful universe where nothing ever changed. Humanity had reminded them why that was impossible, and in doing so,